Welcome to the Seattle Investors Club podcast with Julie Clark and Joe Bauer, where we share the nuts and bolts of real estate investing from our 20 plus years in the industry. Sit back, relax, listen, and immediately take action. Are you ready? Here we go.
Welcome to the Nuts and Bolts of Real Estate podcast. My name is Joe Bauer, and I'm here with my co-host, Julie Clark. Julie, how you doing today?
I am all good in the hood, Joe. I am paying the price because I went to Walla Walla, actually for the first time. Actually, that's such a great connection to our podcast topic today. But I went to Walla Walla for the weekend with no kids, with like probably 10 sets of parents. There were 10 of us that shared this house in Walla Walla, and we went wine tasting for the weekend. And now I am so busy, I'm paying the price, but it was worth it. What are you guys up to?
Walla
Walla Walla. If you haven't been, it's beautiful. It is a lot of land and raw land and farmers, and actually just a huge wine growers and wineries. That's what they do out there. That's what you go to Walla Walla for. Bike riding maybe, and wine tasting. World class. They have. I learned they have a world class like winemakers school or college out in Walla Walla as well.
Wow.
So pretty interesting. Yeah. What are you guys up to?
I'm just hanging out here in the rain. It's pouring rain out here in Enumclaw. I'm not sure what it's like where you guys are at, but it is raining cats and dogs out here.
I don't know why, but I thought you were in Bend. I thought I saw something that you were in Bend.
Yeah, you can't trust social media these days.
I hear you. Word. Well, I just had a major success, and I was able to convince my daughter to delete Instagram. I don't know how I did it, but very happy about that. But let's get on with it today, because we're going to make everybody else here happy today. Speaking of land in Walla Walla, you might be able to go out and do some deals in Walla Walla today at the end of this podcast, because today we have Brent Bowers with us, who's the founder of the Land Sharks. He's an investor and a coach with a focus on buying and selling vacant land, which is super cool. We haven't had anybody on the show that specializes in that niche before. He coaches investors. He has like a 5-step formula in this niche investing lane. And if you've ever wondered about how to get into land investing, we are going to serve it up to you today on a platter with our new friend, Brent Bowers. Brent, what's up? How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing really well. So honored to be on Nuts and Bolts Real Estate Podcast. I love that. I love the Walla Walla. Never heard of that before.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So just happy to be here, ready to share some nuts and bolts, like why I chose land. I love the fact that me and Joe almost have the same similar name. Like I'm Bowers, he's Bauer, like Jack Bauer, like the cool Bauer. So you guys are awesome. And I'm looking forward to really bringing it for the listeners.
Awesome stuff. Well, let's jump into it, because we're probably going to go down some rabbit holes today, guys. So Joseph,
I like holes.
Bauer, kick us off.
Yeah, man. First question is basically a step back in time. We'd like to hear how you grew up, where you grew up, how that led you to the crazy world of real estate and land.
Whoa. Okay. I've never been asked how I grew up, where I grew up I call myself a professional podcast guest, not a host. Hosting is hard. Like you guys have the hard job. No one's ever asked me where I grew up. So I grew up in a place called Okeechobee, Florida, small town. I think there was 300 and something people in my high school graduation, which actually that was my whole class. Not that many people actually graduated. And I was one of them, thankfully, barely, with the help of smart friends. But how did I grow up? I grew up, me and my sister, my parents are still, God bless them, still together to this day. That is saying a lot because most people don't get that, the luxury of that. And we grew up in a 900 square foot house, three bedroom, 1 bath. I didn't really realize that was a small house until now that I own lots of houses. Well, I shouldn't say I own them. I have mortgages on several of them. So the bank owns them. But, we grew up just, normal. My parents both worked hard. I saw my mom and my dad every day leave for work, and my mom would come home from work and cook dinner and clean. And, ultimately my mom had the hardest job. So I just grew up knowing that like you have to go to work every day if you want to pay your bills type thing. So I would say I grew up a pretty normal childhood.
Awesome. What is it? Is there like an urban village area in your town, or is it more rural, or what in that town?
What? It definitely got rural very easily. We kind of grew up just on the outskirts of the city. So we had maybe a 6,000 square foot lot. So I really grew up in the city. There was houses next to us. I could have threw a ping pong ball and hit the neighbor's house fairly easily. And then if you go out a little further, it does get rural. And it's funny, my parents bought 21 acres when I turned 18 and then built a house about the time I was moving out of high school. So I was a little bummed about that, but luckily they still have that land. It's amazing. I actually got to take my 5-year-old son hunting out there a couple of weeks ago, which was really cool. So the grandchildren are benefiting from the land that my parents worked so hard to purchase.
Awesome stuff. And where are you located now?
I am out in Florida. We were in Colorado Springs for about 6 years. I was at a station in the military out there and ended up staying for a couple of years because I built my land business out there. But now we've recently located back to Florida to be close to family, friends, and really have a business that serves us that operates by itself. So I'm truly testing the geography freedom with this business.
So how did you end up? You went into the military. Thank you for your service. I don't know why that always, I don't know if that's a cliche thing to say, but we actually mean it here. So how did you end up military and then you ended up in real estate somehow, or doing land deals or buying and being an investor? How did that come to be?
I'll tell you what, 2007, I got my real estate license. I thought I had to be a realtor to be a good investor. I wanted to be a real estate rock star. I wanted to own houses. I wanted to be rich, to be somebody type thing. And I thought that was going to be through real estate. And I was right. I got a real estate license in 2007, bought my first rental in April 2007. I didn't wait. I took action. The first deal that came across my desk, I purchased it. I was the buyer's agent, so I made a commission for that. Had to borrow $1,000 earnest money for my earnest money deposit from my great grandmother. I didn't even have that funds. And she's like, "Look, if you don't pay me back, it's coming out of your inheritance." And I was like, "Don't worry, Grandma, I will pay you back. I'm getting the commission on this." So I made money to buy that house in 2007. Everyone knows what happened in 2008. And I took a bold move from Okeechobee, Florida to West Palm Beach, Florida to be a real estate rock star. Well, it got so bad. I was driving renters around in my car for days at a time. And sometimes they wouldn't even rent through me. I was lucky to make $300 in a week in 2008. Got so bad, had to move in with my in-laws. I'm now a grown man with basically a rental house, a real estate license, and a wife now moving in with my in-laws. It got a little hairy there for a while. I was paying credit cards with credit cards, and a tenant trashed the house. So it got a little rough financially. I was like, I got to do something different. I got to go back to school. I'm joining the military. They'll help me pay for school. So went and joined the Army. October 2009 went to basic training. November 2010, I was in Afghanistan the first time. Wow. Couple deployments, always gone, always training, always away. First wife left me because I was always gone. So it was kind of a crazy transition in my life, but I had a blast in the military. I got to live in Germany for a couple of years. And then I got to come back to the States in 2013. And guess who was back in real estate? This guy. Army sent me to college. I bought the house right next door to the college. Actually, it touched the university property. And I started doing something that Bigger Pockets coined called house hacking. I didn't even know what that was back then. And that was the start. That was me starting back up in real estate again, and haven't looked back since.
Fantastic. Good stuff. So you invest in other real estate assets besides land, I assume, still.
No, it's funny. It started with rentals. And then it turned into, I'm really broke now. I've got 3 rentals. All my credit cards are maxed out. I'm getting great rent, but how do I pay off all these credit cards? How do I pay these mortgages down? So I heard that it was easy to wholesale houses. You didn't need any credit. You didn't need any money. So I wholesaled a couple houses out of sheer just demand. I had to, because I had to pay for some classes. I was getting behind again on bills. So I was like, let me just wholesale a couple houses. So I started haphazardly building that business. And then I found the coach, which his name is Tom Kroll with Wholesaling Inc., which now I've got the honor to be the Wholesaling Inc. land coach. Just
I saw
incredible.
that. Nice.
Dreams coming true. But my wholesaling business, while I was in the military, I was lacking something. I knew there was something missing. So I kept searching for answers. And I stumbled upon a guy that was buying land at crazy discounts, like pennies on the dollar, and turning around and flipping this stuff overnight and making massive profits. So I was like, man, I'm going to start mailing the land as well. And it turned into one deal, then a second deal in a very short amount of time. And we just, ever since then, it's I've just continued building systems around it. And now it provides a passive income. We've got almost 100 land notes that are paying me every month.
Awesome.
Me and my team, and done about 286 land deals since 2015.
I'm going to ask you one question, but guys, I got to take a break. We have a new kitten, and the kitten has jumped out on my deck, and I need to rescue it. So what I'm going to ask you next is to give us an example, maybe, or give us the 3-minute Cliff Notes case study version of maybe one of your last land deals that you did, if you can compress it in a short without going super deep dive, and then we'll keep going. But give me 1 second, guys. You guys talk amongst yourselves. Let me get this.
Yeah, no worries.
I saw her looking over there. I was like, what's she looking at?
I wasn't sure. I just figured it was just me because I was talking too long. I get it caught up. You got to reel me in.
No, that's great.
All right, guys, give me 1 second. This is real life. This is how a podcast works. All right. We've saved the cat. My daughter would kill me if I lost that cat. So let's keep going.
We bought a house. It's funny that you bring up the cat, because we buy houses too. And land is totally my favorite, but I'm not going to lie. I'm a recovering house buyer. But we bought a house to flip. We're going to renovate this house. And we found an entire herd of kittens in there, like 8 of them, and called the seller and said, "Hey, you forgot your cats." He goes, I didn't have any cats. And we're like, "Yes, you do. There's a collar here. There's bowls here. There's cat food here. There's cat litter here." Nope, not mine. So we ended up rehoming all these cats and my acquisition manager, I think she kept 3 of them.
I made a deal with my daughter this summer, and I challenged her on something I didn't think she would do, and she did it. So I ended up with this kitten. So enough of cats, but
that's awesome.
So let's talk about. Can you give us an example of kind of a deal that you've done lately, and then we'll deep dive into picking out some nuts and bolts of land investing.
I've done so many, and one that comes to mind for me is, can I talk about the first land deal I did?
Sure.
Because I feel like this is one I just stumbled through and made so many mistakes, and it the stars aligned. God really just blessed me on it. But, and I can talk about a recent one too, but, I would say it's my favorite deal, my first one. I talked to you about hearing that guy on a podcast. And at that time, I had the tax delinquent list that I was just recently mailing. So you're talking about your cats, and now my dog's out there raising heck. And I don't know, she never barks. So there's probably someone out front knocking on the door. But long story short, I mail 687 of these records of land that are behind on their taxes. It's just a simple postcard saying, "Hey, I'd like to buy your land. If you're interested in a fair cash offer, call me." My phone absolutely exploded. And I was still a military officer back during this time. So I'm on base at 6 a.m. and I'm usually not leaving till 6 p.m., 7 p.m. sometimes. So it's okay, I'm sneaking in the bathroom, returning these calls, trying to lock my office door. My boss will walk in and say, "You're doing another land deal, aren't you?" Yeah, you caught me, sir. But long story short, I returned about 20 of those phone calls. And out of those 20 phone calls, I ended up pulling 2 deals out of. And the first one that I pulled out, the seller he was just straight up. He's like, look, the land's not buildable. I'm a retired CPA. I traded for this a long time ago. I want to just get done with it. Give me $285. It's yours. I was like, what? Are you serious? So I met this guy at a coffee shop. It's called the Blackberry Diner and Coffee Shop right next to Fort Carson, Colorado. Met him. Great. Let's do the deal. So I was like, let me just drive out to the land. I got to see what I'm buying here. So we drove out there, had no clue what it was worth. And you told me 3 minutes. So I'm going to just summarize it. I bought it for $285, called a realtor down the road. And I was like, I don't know what this is worth. What's the blowout price? She said 10K maybe. And then I hung up with her. I thanked her for her time. She called me back within 5 minutes, offered me 5K, ended up buying it within 4 days. And I paid the seller on Tuesday, got my $5,000 check on Wednesday. I paid $285, made $5,000.
And so you closed on, you didn't wholesale it. You closed on it and resold it to her.
Exactly. I didn't even, and dummy me, I had already wholesaled probably 15 houses at the time. And I straight up purchased it and sold it to her.
Did you say $285?
You got it. You got it.
Yeah. Interesting. Wow. That's a good one. That's a good one. Okay. Well, let's jump into this a little bit. So how do you decide, where you even want to do this? Do you do it all in your back door, or do you do it out in other states, or how do you research, where you're going to do these deals?
When I first got started, I really did it in my own backyard. Like I did one street over. That first deal I just gave an example of was an hour and a half away. The second one was maybe 40 minutes away. So I really started in my own backyard. And I know that some people don't have that advantage. Like I've got students in Korea that are in the military. I got students in Alaska that are in the military, and they don't have that option. So I always recommend start where you're familiar with, like maybe somewhere you've been stationed, or your next duty station, or maybe you're not even in the military. Maybe you just work overseas. Like go, where did you grow up at? Because ultimately was my next location I went to, is where I grew up at. I got my dad involved in land. He's done like 30 something land deals now at age 59. So he's now using his brain to make money rather than having to manual labor type stuff. So I always recommend about a 2.5 hour radius of where you currently live, because there's power in being able to meet a seller, meet a buyer, put signs out, whatever it takes to get the deal done.
So are you looking for, is there like a certain use of land that you try to focus on, whether that be agricultural, industrial, or residential? Let's just take it. Let's say you're going to do this from your desk, because you're always going to start from your desk. Take us like, what's the first thing you do? You're going to go, how do you even get started? You're going to research an area. Do you choose that by like, what, I'm looking for residential land, or I'm looking for rural, I'm looking for, whatever zoning might be appropriate.
I personally really like vacant, raw residential land. Now that it could be zoned agriculture, or it could be like, the tax classification can be agricultural land. That basically means you're farming it, or you have a cow on it, whatever. But I prefer vacant residential land. So where do you start? Like, for example, like pick an area within about a 2.5 hour radius. That's what I call your playground. And then you need to get a list of landowners. And then you got to communicate with that list, whether you love to mail, cold call, text, whatever it be. You got to communicate with that list and see if they consider an offer or be interested in selling.
But I mean, are you pulling your list based on the zoning type?
Yes. Vacant residential land, zone residential.
Vacant residential. But you said so houses can be built on it, right? Is that different than agricultural use? Like can you accomplish your goal with an agricultural use zoning?
Yes, you can definitely accomplish the goal. And I don't really go after agricultural land that's being farmed or ranched, because that's those people's livelihood. They're generally not going to sell it at a massive discount. Now, granted, yes, you could subdivide it and build things on it, but that's not my play. I'm keeping this is a volume game. I'm keeping this super simple. I'm not changing the zoning. I'm not putting in roads. I'm not subdividing. I'm buying it at a discount and selling it for a profit.
But isn't that what a land developer, like all these, like D.R. Horton or these, isn't everybody going for residential land that can be, resold and, entitled and subdivisions built? Isn't that kind of what all those brokers or big builders like, like I said, D.R. Horton or whatever big home builder you want to, isn't there competition with you on that?
Absolutely. And I don't think they're competition at all. Honestly, they're ultimately business partners. Now, I did not start here, but this is where my business is evolving. I started with those small vacant residential lots. Like, I love those. Those are cookie cutter. They're boring and they make a pile of money. Like, I'll buy them for $10,000, sell them for $30,000 on a 15-year note at 9% interest and collect I'll 5x my money, 9x my money sometimes.
Right.
But there are these things that are being brought to me now. Realtors are bringing them. People across the country hearing me on this podcast, like these large parcels of land. And D.R. Horton's my friend because I call them and say, hey, I got this piece of land ready for you. We've got it under contract for $100 or say $1 million. $1 million. What would you pay for this? Here's what the city planner said you can do with it. So we basically hand it over to them on a silver platter. And that's an assignment of contract where you make $100,000, $200,000 or $300,000. So if I got under contract for $1 million and they're willing to pay 1.4, there's a $400,000 payday.
Absolutely. Totally get that. Let's go smaller. Let's go a little more basic to the doubles or triples instead of dealing with the D.R. Hortons, like on those deals where you're, selling to some other buyer, like you did before. Maybe you were doing those institutional type deals. Give us an example of like, who's the buyer on that? Like, are you selling to somebody who wants to build their home, or are you always selling to home builders?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So the first buyer was a realtor. The second parcel of land I got was 5 acres. And it was kind of in a crazy spot. It was actually just south of NORAD in Colorado Springs. And this was 5 acres, not accessible. Like, you actually had to trespass against state land to get to this property. And I disclosed it. I put a Craigslist ad out on Saturday, had a buyer by Sunday. And this one I actually bought for $500. And I asked for $500 down and a total of $5,000. And I was going to hold the financing. I had a buyer bring me $500 cash on Sunday, and he just wanted to buy it to one day build a cabin on this property. But I disclosed it to him, like, look, you can't access it. You're going to have to get an egress attorney or a real estate attorney that can get you legal access. That's why I was selling it so cheap. But the buyer for that just wanted a place to go, wanted to build a cabin. And it's like, that's kind of like the American dream for a lot of people. They just want to own a piece of land.
Hey guys, it's Julie here with a quick break from the show to discuss an opportunity some of you may have interest in, which is to work more closely with me. On almost a daily basis, I get calls from investors and brokers, both new and experienced, asking me for guidance or advice. I love helping you guys out, and it keeps me on my toes too. So with that said, I wanted to let you know that I have a private broker coaching community called the VIP Education Community. And the best part is that it's 100% free. That's right, it's free to join. So whether you're a traditional broker or a broker investor, my VIP education community offers personalized one-on-one coaching from not just me, but also from my experienced broker friends with expertise in all disciplines of real estate and real estate investing. We'll teach and share our modern marketing strategies, our tech and lead generation resources, plus teach you how to identify or offer up opportunities for yourself or for your clients using techniques such as seller financing, lease options, land entitlement deals, BRRRR investing, flipping, multifamily or commercial coaching, whatever you like. We've got it all covered for you. The future of real estate is changing fast, and to stay in the game, it's time to learn about all the options you can offer your buyer and seller clients, as well as, if you want, learn how to use those skills to grow your own real estate portfolio. If you'd like more details about joining my VIP education community, reach out to me at julie@seattleinvestorsclub.com or text me at 206-910-2985 or just send me a Facebook message. My new favorite phrase is community equals confidence. So let's navigate the future of real estate together. Now, back to the show.
So it's kind of sounds like what you're the master of is identifying maybe desirable areas or parcels of land and then gathering up all the details about that parcel and serving it up on a platter to whoever might be the buyer, right?
Yeah.
Doing all the homework. Is that the whole point, right? Is like making it easy for them.
Yes. Turnkey. Like now we figure out that like the top 10 questions our buyers always ask. Is it buildable? How do I get to it? What's it zoned for? What are the restrictions? And we put that all on our website. And now people will literally buy the stuff at midnight. Click to buy now type stuff. So yeah, we package it for them. Everything we know, we disclose.
Excellent. So what's the best way to that you sourced, confirm, we're talking about confirming zoning and setbacks and all the other stuff. How do you get a piece of land that you've identified that you're going to have an opportunity on? Do you get under a contract with a feasibility period? So you've got it under control. That's a lot of work. It can be a lot of work to go deep dive and get all that information and call the counties. Do you do that after you have it under contract with a feasibility period, or do you do it beforehand? So you're you have all that information before you go under contract with these land sellers. I
get it under contract first, and then we do our due diligence. And we generally ask about 15 days for the we call it an inspection period. Anything we find that we don't like, we cancel the contract, or we have the ability to cancel the contract.
Do you find that with land deals, there's so many variables and maybe some of the sellers aren't really totally up to speed on what all that is? Do you find that, I'm going totally different probably than other people have asked you before. Do you find that you are able to, like when you're flipping houses and you're wholesaling residential real estate or multifamily, right? Retrading somebody on the price is a bit BS and can kill the deal for you, or, you get a bad reputation. In land deals, there's so many variables. I've been a land broker myself to institutional multifamily, parcels, right, in urban villages and stuff like that. I did that for several years myself, but I feel like there's more leeway in coming back to a seller on a land deal and saying, hey, look, we did our feasibility, our inspection period, and these are the facts that we discovered, which is going to make us have to change the price. And the reason I say that is it easier to adjust the price on those contracts on land deals as opposed to maybe residential or multifamily or even commercial, because it's there's so many parts that go into valuing that land, right? Setbacks, water, sewer, like all those things. Do you find you have an easier time just kind of signing them up instead of having to arm wrestle them down to a price point when you first get them signed up, that you can do that later after you've done the feasibility? You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And I love the fact that you said arm wrestle, because we never, we want the seller to feel like they've won as well. Like the win-win type thing, because ultimately they have friends that own land, or they're going to give you a good review. It's 100% easier with land. There's just so much less emotion. They never lived in it. They didn't raise their family in there for 18 years. I don't know what it is about a house or an apartment, like when investors or even a homeowner lives there for many years and they got to replace the roof or the water heater. They think that makes them, they're just like entitled to making a massive profit. But when they've owned a piece of land for many years, like paid the taxes on it for 30 years or inherited it, and they've done nothing to the land, there's just easier for people to emotionally just unload that. I don't know what it is. That's never laid their head there at night. I'm not really sure, but there's just so much less emotion. Like for instance, I could break down another deal we've got going on right now. The woman wanted $95,000. We're paying $40,000. It was just one of the easiest deals. And we found out what the motivation was. And we also found out the second form of motivation, which was to allow her, and this was a piece of land with a mobile home on a single wide trailer. The second motivation she had was to allow her son to stay there. And guess what? The son wanted to buy it. So we bought it. Now we're financing it to the son.
Right. Exactly. So, okay, let's just assume you get something under contract then what is your source? What do you immediately do? Do you go to the county and verify all these, zoning and use and setbacks or whatever else, septic? What do you do once you've got something under contract?
Yeah. And like when you say setbacks and septic, or what is it going to need sewer? So as soon as we get it under contract, we get it to the title company. They open title policy. They start, researching any liens, encumbrances. Is there an IRS tax lien of 157 grand? We've come across that. So they start checking that out. And then my virtual assistant in the Philippines, she's also got a list of 16 items that she checks. So let's just say that you mentioned like setbacks and septic system. That sounds like an infill buildable city lot to me. So we want to know all that because the builder that we're going to sell it to is going to want to know that. Now, if it's vacant, like rural stuff that like 30 minutes out of town, I call it the teeter-totter effect. It's just on the outskirts of the growth. I don't care about setbacks because I'm buying probably 5 acres. I'm buying 10 acres. We know there's no well. We know there's no sewer system. So, as long as it's over an acre in Colorado, we know it's going to be allowed to have a septic system. So we now have like almost the cookie cutter approach with what piece of land it is. So yeah, we've got and I can even offer that to your listeners. We have a 16 item due diligence checklist. I'll give that for free. Yeah, I can give you that link. It's thelandsharks.com/DD as in due diligence. That is what my team checks on every parcel. On 280 something parcels of land, we check all that. And we built it over the years from mistakes I've made not checking these things.
Yeah, super. Oh man, we appreciate that. That's fantastic. So is that though your thing? Who are they calling? Your VA? Are they calling the county or who are they calling to verify the checklist information?
Yeah, a lot of times we can get this on county websites like the assessor site, planning and zoning. We'll talk to the planner if they will talk to us. We'll talk to the GIS mapping department. We get as much as we can because my virtual assistants are in the Philippines. So they try and get it off the internet. And if they've got to, they'll schedule a call with the zoner or planning and zoning or the assessor. First they'll try and get what's online because it's really cool to be able to point our customer or our buyer directly to that source.
That's the question. If you call the county or the city or whoever, the town, and you don't own the property yet, will the planner talk to you? Or
100%. We just tell them we have it under contract. We're looking to buy it all the time.
Perfect. Awesome. So is there anything like with land that is weird that you don't get in regular residential or multifamily? Like, are there weird liens like utilities or gas line? Is there stuff that's kind of unique that you need to watch out for on weird title stuff that shows up, or what's like the deal killer on land deals that are not like urban infill lots, right? We can kind of figure that part out, but these more rural or on the cuff, acreages, when you're buying acreages, what is it that is a deal killer or weird things that we wouldn't normally see on title or something?
No, great question. I would say a deal killer for me is an environmental issue. If I find that there's something weird going on, I don't even want to deal with that. It's like, because that could come back later one day and bite us. Another thing weird that I found, this happened to me, and luckily the title company caught it, was the piece of land that I had did not have water on it. There's no water, but come to find out, there was actually a water tap that the seller had not been paying the water company for having. It was like, it was crazy. It was like $20 a month, but that adds up over many, many, many years. So luckily we found that out, and the water company did not put a lien on the property. So the title company missed it. And luckily my VA had called the water company, just, hey, is there a water tap? Is there anything owed? No, you don't have any water. Oh yeah. It looks like you haven't, there's about $6,000 balance. What? There's not even water on the property, but there was the ability to tap into water.
Gotcha. So you're calling the utility companies and seeing if an account exists and all that stuff. And I get you. We're happy to look at your checklist as well. So, I guess the other thing is like, I guess you get out in the acreages and there's that ingress, egress, or landlocked.
Right.
or what about if there's like water, running through the property somehow, or wetlands? Do you avoid all that stuff, or?
No, I don't avoid any of that. Like natural stuff, no. I've bought land. I did do one subdivide project, and we paid a engineer to go out there and find where the wetlands were, because we didn't want to mess with that. Like you don't go messing with wetlands type thing, because you got to buy wetland credits, and sometimes those credits cost more than the land's worth. But yeah, it's like we want to see road access, even if it's a dirt road or a grass road. We want to see legal ingress and egress. And if there's not, I'll still buy it, but we got to get it at an even bigger discount. At the end of the day, I love the book, The Intelligent Investor. This is Benjamin Graham wrote this. This is Warren Buffett's teacher. And Benjamin Graham says, buy at a discount. Buy at a margin of safety. Buy things like you buy your groceries on discount, not like you buy your perfume. Perfume is retail. We're not paying retail prices. We're paying a discount. We're buying this land at a massive discount, basically on sale. And it gives us a huge margin of error, gives us a big buffer. I bought literally holes in the ground on accident. Stuff that had $157,000 IRS tax liens. And I've learned how not to do that before. But luckily, I was buying this stuff at 10, 20, 30 cents on the dollar, and it really saved my bacon.
Well, I think I saw one of your videos where you said that you might call up like a local agent in the area that specializes in land deals and say, what's the 30 days this is on fire sale price?
I love that. Yes, that's exactly it.
Right. And that's the price that you want to get it for less than that, right? Because that's what you want to sell it to somebody else. So this gets into that buildability thing where, I don't know if the DR Hortons of the world and those guys will buy unentitled land that it could take them years to get their entitlements done, right? So subdivision properties and stuff like that, I think, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're doing your deals all with like quick closes. You're not doing your deals with like closing in 18 months when I have the permits type of thing.
Right. And now granted, I had the largest parcel we've ever purchased was 1.2 million. And that's where, the seller kind of plays along for a while with us, lets us get these permits, because you go out and spend out 1.2 million on a piece of land that you can't put the 44 townhomes on. Like you just went bankrupt, basically.
Yeah. Right. So there's two types of land investing, or maybe even more. There's the working and playing with developers who are going to build subdivisions or townhomes, like we said. And then there's the smaller, players where the buyer is either an owner user or going to live there or wants it for some reason. Right. Am I accurate in saying that? They're totally two different types of approaches, or not?
Yeah. And then there's maybe even a third one, the recreational vacant land that someone's just going to build a cabin on or camp on, or just have a place to bring their quads out. And, I took my kids camping. We have a camper, and I took them out several months ago, and me and my son built a fire, roasted marshmallows. And you think he talked about the snowmobiles or how cool the camper was, or the truck ride? No, he talked about being able to build a fire, stay out past dark, and roast marshmallows. Like it was just the memories, the experiences, and owning a piece of land for someone gives them that. So we have buyers like on a waiting list for stuff like that.
Yeah. How do you, find the buyers aside from the developer buyers and that type of hedge fundy stuff? For where do the regular buyers come from for the smaller land deals? Are you marketing them like as a wholesale contract? Are you wholesaling those these days? Or are you closing on them and then reselling them, or some of both?
Both. And I'll tell you the decision, like people ask me all the time, well, how do you know whether to buy it or wholesale it? And it's super easy. What does my bank account look like? How many parcels of land did I buy this month? So that's it. Sometimes I run out of money like everyone else. So I'll wholesale, or I'll do a quick flip with a private money or a hard money lender. And people don't realize hard money lenders love to lend on land. you just got to get it below 60 cents on the dollar or 65 cents on the dollar.
Okay.
I have another lender just wants it
There
below
you
50.
go. That's a little nugget piece there. So you're saying that you have a hard money lender that they do like fix and flip loans and everything else, or do they specialize in land?
Everything. He's lent me money on a 19-unit apartment complex. So
this is a private guy though, right? Not like a, hard money company. Is it
he's
just
a hard
private
money broker? Yeah.
He's a hard money broker.
Company. And I've got multiple others, multiple private lenders, hard money lenders, and they're all fine with land as long as you get it at a massive discount. They want to be, I say the perfect position is less than 50 cents on the dollar. You're buying $100,000 piece of land at $50,000. Now, if I could tell you, I'm going to give you a Bitcoin for $10,000. And I don't know if anybody knows what Bitcoin's going for. It's going for like, last I saw was like 49,000. Would you take a Bitcoin, pay me today 10,000 for a Bitcoin when you know it's worth 49,000?
Okay, gotcha. Right.
And I had so many people say, absolutely, I would. But then that same person's standing there asking me, I can get this land for 10,000. It's worth about 50. Should I do it? And I give them that Bitcoin example and they say, heck yeah, I do that. I'm like, okay, you can't even see this Bitcoin. You don't even understand how it works, but you can go and build a house on this $50,000 land. You can farm it. You can hold it forever. It's not going to go anywhere. No one can steal it from you. And you're questioning me on this. So you're getting an asset at a discount. That's it.
So what's the equity requirement that they're wanting you to put down on those deals?
Oh, I'm talking like zero money down.
Oh,
like I don't come up with any money. They'll pay for closing costs too if I got it under 65 cents on the dollar.
There you go. Okay. So what about like this land? Like in our state, we have a lot of like wind, windmill. You see the farmers or the landowners in Eastern Washington, they have, I call it utility land, right? They got the wind turbines on there. Do you ever play in that world?
No, I have not actually. I'd say the closest I've seen to that is not even utility. One of my students just purchased a big parcel of land. And it's actually agriculture. It's, that we were talking about at the beginning of this. The government is paying him a certain amount of money per month not to farm it. It's just like, what? Yeah.
So who are the buyers? I mean, how do you get your buyers? How do you market these properties? Yeah. I know you're the land guy, so you probably you've built a list of land buyers over the years, but if you're just getting started, how does somebody develop a list of land buyers if they're not a real estate agent posting it on the local MLS or something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. I teach this, I call it immediate profits, because the biggest thing most people ask is like, well, what if I get stuck with this land? And I always say, what if you had a buyer before you purchased it? So my contract allows me to market it. And I tell the seller like, hey, do you have any problem with me buying this land and turning around and selling it? Because that's what I do. I'm not going to hold on to it. So they're already ready to go. They understand like it's going to happen. I'm going to resell this land. So I put it on Craigslist. I probably sold my first 10 parcels on Craigslist. Facebook buy sell groups. These things are free. Buy, sell, trade, yard sale groups. I find buyers all the time in these groups. And you're right. I've built a buyers list of over 11,000 people. There's land websites, land.com, landwatch.com. Here's my favorite, landcentury.com. For $15, you can put your listing online. And another thing that's been working very well for us, if I'm going to go in Seattle, Washington, and I'm looking at a piece of land, like you call me today, Julie, say, hi, I got like 3 acres. It's on the outskirts, yada, yada. I'm like, I have no clue what that's worth, Julie, but give me 5 minutes. I'll call you right back. I'm going to go on Redfin and I'm going to draw an area around that piece of land. And I'm going to look at every piece of land that's sold in the last 3 months. And I'm going to copy and paste the listed by agent and copy and paste the sold by agent or bought by agent is what Redfin calls it. And if the Redfin's not there, I'm going to go to Zillow or both. Yeah. And I'm going to do it about 15 times. And I'm going to notice, okay, Joe is on here 7. Sheen is on here 6. I'm going to call Joe. You're like, hey man, what is this worth? What's a 30-day blowout price? Like you mentioned earlier. And I'm going to list it with that person. That's another avenue.
Yeah.
A realtor.
So that's what I was going to also ask you is, how do you, like, let's say you're looking for comps, right? And you're looking at 10 acres versus, and you are not able to find any comps. The nearest comp is, I don't know, 15 acres or 20 acres. How do you determine the difference in value when you don't have an apples to apples comp, and do you have like a certain, like, you back into the price per acre and you apply it? So if you had a 40-acre sale and it was $1,000 an acre, you can apply $1,000 to 30 acres, or how does that work? Because I know as a real estate agent with residential stuff, it absolutely does not translate that way. If a house sells for $400 a square foot and the house I'm looking at is 400 square foot larger, I cannot take $400 a square foot and apply it. It does not work that way. But what about with land? Does it work that way?
It does when you get over that 40-acre mark, the 50-acre mark. But if you're comparing 1 acre parcel to 10 or a 15, no longer apples to apples. And I don't really like going into those areas. I want to see volume. I want to see buying and selling happen of that actual asset, the apple to apple. So I keep it super dense. Like, okay, if it's a buildable lot, say it's like 5,000 square foot to 3/4 acre, and then 3/4 to 1 acre, 1 to 3 acres, 3 to 5, 5 to 10. And then you can start getting a little bit more of a spread. But yeah, if you use that 40 acres, that $1,000 an acre, that's way cheaper. The bigger you get, the less per acre you usually pay. So I kind of avoid those areas. Now, granted, I will still buy it as long as I have a buyer lined up. It's a guarantee, and I'm getting a like crazy discount. And that's generally those areas where I'm not seeing a lot of selling happening. That means that there's no demand.
Well, I'll tell you what, in our area here, we have, if you guys who are listening haven't met my friend Todd McKellips yet of Seattle Tiny Homes, what a great buyer he is. I'm working on a deal with him right now, and it's a property. I don't specialize in acreage properties, but I saw this property. The seller called me on this property, or I got this lead, and I'm like, hey, I don't know if you, Brent, you guys have the tiny home stuff going on, but that is a whole nother buyer base for people that specialize in tiny homes or RVs or whatever. I imagine, of course, the use has to be there, but for the acreage properties, that's my go-to buyer right now is the tiny home crowd. Are you guys touching on that at all?
Absolutely. I have one that emails me every once in a while. You got anything here? You got anything there? And it's really cool. It's just another buyer. The RV, that's huge. Like, people always ask, will you allow an RV? We bought 117 parcels of land in Apache, Arizona. Like, it's in the middle of nowhere. Some of them are 1 acre, some of them are 2 acres, but you can have RVs out there. So we sell that stuff all the time to people that just want to go and park their RV. Like, I had some college students that travel from state to state to state in their RV they're like land banking, basically.
Right. So why did you buy that? How did that particular deal, did you send them a letter, or how did you come across that lead, and why would you have bought it? Like, were you looking for that, or what?
Funny thing, I actually so I was doing a lot with land and making a lot of mistakes, and made quite a bit of money. And I was like, there's got to be more to this. So I hired a coach that was a lot further ahead of me in the land business. And he came across it. He was buying like over 380 parcels. And he's like, look, you want in on this? So they made a killing on it, because they were getting it for we bought it for $391 a parcel. I think he got it for $100 a parcel.
Okay. So somebody kind of just let you in on the deal on that one.
Exactly.
But the play was, you guys knew it was going to be RV dirt type of stuff.
Yeah, that plus it was like there was no restrictions, and I knew the year and a half I've been in the business already. I'm like, man, that's one question people always ask. Well, what are the restrictions? And I'm like, what are you trying to do? Like, so when I found a piece of land, like a bunch of land, and it took me a while to sell this stuff, mostly because I didn't like the land. Like, I'm used to trees and grass and water. Arizona has none of that, or this area of Arizona has none of that. So I had to get over my limiting belief that no one wants this land, but people do. Like there's a buyer for every piece of land.
How about, are you doing deals where, let's say the infrastructure is, I was watching some other guy, you might even know who it is. I can't remember his name, but he was off buying properties, lots, parcels. He originally was, like you said, he was doing these deals in Colorado Springs, young guy. And then Colorado Springs got overpriced.
Yeah.
And so he moved out to some other town within 20, 30 minutes away, where I guess they already have like the infrastructure in place and lots are already subdivided. And he was picking up lots, for $1,000 to $5,000, where all the sewers or all the curbs and streets and infrastructure, as I call it, was already there. And then he would just resell that to somebody that wanted to build their home on it.
Yep.
That's interesting. If you can find those fringe areas that are the next commuter town that are not overdeveloped yet. Do you have anything to say about that type of
I feel like I know exactly who you're talking about. I've got a student that does the exact same thing in the exact same area. And it's just what I call the teeter-totter method. You're just teeter-tottering outside of the explosion of growth, which is Colorado Springs. And when I moved to Colorado Springs in 2015, everyone was running out of Denver. Now everyone's running out of Colorado Springs because it's just, they sell, they make a ton of money, and now they got to go somewhere. So that it just keeps expanding. And you got the mountains.
I'm surprised though that the developer who put in the infrastructure would want to sell those lots like that. Why wouldn't they just do it themselves, sell it to a buyer? I know this particular guy, if we know who we're talking about, is actually building little small, cheaply built homes on there too. Like that's one option, right? You can, you get in the fringe like that. Maybe it's inexpensive, less expensive to actually build a little rambler on there, right? And you can kill it that way. You're buying the lot for $5,000. You're spending $100 a square foot, or I don't know what he's paying to build this house and making a killing.
Yeah. You're not talking about Dan Haberkost, are you?
I can't remember his name, but I'm just saying, why would a builder, a developer who's already put in the infrastructure let go of that lot in that way?
One thing I had to learn a couple of years ago is stop asking why. There's just so many things. Like we just looked at a failed development. The builder put in all the curbs and the streets and the gutters, and they bought this thing in 2008, and they totally missed their window to build. So there's so many reasons why, like they could have been over leveraged. They could have had other things going on, and then they lose them to back taxes, or they sell them to guys like me. I actually have one of my house buyers, that's one of my cash buyers, and I've wholesaled probably 6 houses to him by now. I noticed the other day I had a realtor bring me a deal, and I was like, wait a minute, I recognize this guy's name. He was unloading a deal and I made an offer on it, and this guy buys from me all the time. I call him. I'm like, dude, do you need help? What's going on? And he just had too many projects, and he didn't want to wait 8 months to start the renovations on it.
Right.
So a lot of times it's just timing for people.
What's your pecking order of land deals that would be the ones that you love to do? We know the D.R. Horton subdividable, big ass, that stuff is a huge payday if you can find those, but there's a lot of people going after those. Okay. That are, specialty brokers for that. Even D.R. Horton themselves and those types of groups are, some of the big builders are going after that kind of stuff. Obviously, that's a great relationship if you can find those deals. But where is a one step below that? Or like what, aside from those, what would be your next favorite type of deal to do? Like, give me a couple.
I really like buying the lots for $4,000, $5,000, $6,000. And that are worth, anywhere from 30 to 35 to 40, because I could sell those very quickly, like $999 down, $400 a month for however many months, collect interest. And we usually 6x, 7x, 8x our returns. And
But where are those deals? Like what is an example of that type of deal? Just like some outskirts piece of land that has a mobile home on it or an old house on it. Where are those deals, or what, you know what I mean? Like not urban village deals.
Yeah, a lot of times they don't even have anything on it whatsoever. No well, no septic, no mobile home. But I mean, they're all over. They're in Colorado, they're in Utah, they're in Florida. I'm in Arizona, Arkansas, Colorado, and Florida. Why so many states is because I've just, over the years, I find another county that's really works. We've been trying to get in Texas for a little while, but land is just so hot right now. And
who's the buyer of those deals though? Like who's the buyer of the single lot, 3-5 acres, not a developer situation? Who's the buyer of that type of lot?
Yeah, it's someone that wants to build their house one day, or wants to own just kind of get outside of the city, or build a cabin, or have a place to park their RV for a while. It's the person that works, the 9-to-5 W-2 job. They've got a decent paycheck, but they don't have like tons of money in the bank. They can come up with $1,000, and they think in payments, not what's the total price, but how much is it going to cost each month?
And I'm going to get on your exact point there in 1 second. So what about, because we're going down a great little point we haven't talked about yet, but what about that type of, I'm going to build my house or throw a mobile home on there or whatever, versus the recreational land? Is there more buyers for one or the other in regards to that?
I believe there's, I don't know if there's more buyers. That's a great question. I've never been asked that. I don't know if there's more buyers for recreational, vacant, like rural land compared to buildable infill lots. But I can tell you, it's easier to get massive discounts on the recreational rural stuff because there's a lot more of it. Now, the buildable infill lots, I absolutely love it, because if I get it under contract, like a $50,000 lot under contract for say half price, 50 cents on the dollar, 25 grand, I know I could sell this lot to a spec home builder or a house flipper that's just sick of like the competition for 40,000. I just got it under contract for 25. That's 35. That's a quick 15 grand profit just for assigning this contract.
So are you essentially reverse wholesaling? You know what your buyers want, and you go looking for that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's a strategy, purely a strategy.
Right. There it is right there. Okay. Well, let's talk about what you called in one of your videos, how you double the fair market value of the land, which is, I believe, that you end up seller financing the lot. Talk about how do you do that? And is that do you try to do that a lot, or?
I try and do it 8 out of 10 times. And I would do it 10 out of 10 if I had unlimited money. But I don't want to go into debt to get these. I want to do them with as much. And I've had people like, big time real estate guys. Well, why don't you borrow $1 million and you just pay a partner 20%? And I'm like, well, I can do the same thing over here a little bit slower and not have to pay someone or have someone looking over my shoulder. It's all about lifestyle design.
What's the sweetest price point then for something like that, right? In order to ideally offer up your seller financing. Like you said, it's these buyers that all they are focused on is the monthly payment, right? So what's like a typical deal look like that for you?
I mentioned previously about $35,000, $40,000. I mean, those are easy deals to do. And yeah.
Yeah. And on those deals though, like, is there water and sewer already on those properties? Like over here, that to me, that seems like, well, that would just be like a raw piece of land.
So the infill buildable lots, usually they have sewer and water close by, but I was saying earlier, the recreational and the stuff in the rural, no, there's nothing on there. There's nothing whatsoever.
Right. Gotcha. Awesome. Okay. Well, you mentioned, and we're going to wrap it up here in a second. What is landwatch.com? You mentioned that in one of your videos. I think you use that maybe to help price your properties or find comps values.
Yep. As well as sell. It's actually, I use it to sell on as well as to comp. That's, hey, I can't figure out anything on Zillow. Is it on LandWatch? Yeah, they've got tons of land in this area, 5-acre parcels, and LandWatch gives me a really, really good indication of what it's worth.
Awesome. And then you mentioned another thing. You guys, everybody go to Brent's YouTube channel. It's just called Brent Bowers, right? Is your YouTube channel? Yeah. And this is all information. He's sharing so much information on there that you can deep dive even further today on. But you had this other site you called Priced, PRYCD.com. How do you use that, or what is that?
Yeah, I love that site. So remember how we talked about like, hey, go into a playground, go in the county. Now you got to figure out who the land sellers are. I use priced.com. If you like, I can give your listeners a link. They can get 400 free records in 7 days, and they could be mailing people tonight. But I use price.com to pull a list of landowners, and they even show me what the estimated land value is, which is really cool. Especially when I want to buy it at 30 cents on the dollar. They tell me it's worth 100, so I got to make a $30,000 offer.
Awesome. So that's what, PRYCD.com. Do you want to give us a link? Well, everybody, you guys, honestly, you don't need to recreate the wheel here. We're going to let Brent tell you. He has a coaching program on this where you're going to, he would offer you all his exact roadmap, how he does all this. And if you want to get into land investing, I think it's really awesome and different, and not something everybody else is doing, right? And not only can you learn how to deal with infill lots maybe, but you can also, like I said, if you're in the Pacific Northwest, there's so many other types of areas to buy land out here. What a valuable tool when people are all focused on one thing and you're going to be niche on something else. There's a huge opportunity here in the Pacific Northwest, I think, to do this. If you can get a coach like somebody like Brent. So what's your price code that you want to share with us? And then tell us how people can connect with you and maybe get some coaching from you.
Yeah, it's priced. And you had spelled it, Julie, PRYCD.com/the land sharks. That's going to get you 400 records for free. You can actually start mailing from landowners, and 7 days free trial. I think after the 7 days is like $45 a month. But check it out. That's one way to start, being able to roll with this really quickly. When I started, these things didn't exist. And I feel like I was kind of in the caveman days, but tools make it a little easier.
Awesome. Good stuff. There's so much more you guys can learn about this. We barely scratched the surface here today. So I hope you got his, again, tell us, is it Brent Bowers is your YouTube channel? Yep. Joe, you can put in the chat. Is there anywhere else? Do you have like your website? Sharks.com. You guys can check that out.
Yeah, I love that.
What's your affiliation with Wholesaling INC? I've noticed.
So
what's the story there?
I'm with Wholesaling INC. You can find me also on wholesalinginc.com/land. And thanks for mentioning my YouTube channel, Julie, because I did just launch that. We just hit the 4-month mark. I am like giving my entire system on YouTube, Brent Bowers. And I don't think anybody else is talking about land on YouTube, everything we're doing. But yeah, Tom Kroll brought me into the Wholesaling Inc. world about January 1st. I'm super blessed to be with those guys. I mean, there's student first mentality. There's a lot of programs out there, a lot of courses that will just take your money. Our like Wholesaling Inc. motto is student first, because at the end of the day, if you got to drive to your student's house to get them their first deal, that's what it takes, type thing. Awesome. So yeah, just want to see students having success with this.
Fantastic. Well, we can't wait to hear. I'll be watching, subscribe to your YouTube channel because I'm fascinated by, the whole land game myself, as well as have a little touch in the development land world myself. I think I like what do the smaller deals look like that the average Joe can do a little bit easier. Another thing I'll just say, do you partner with your students and you have all the contacts and the big buyers all ready to go? You know what I mean? You could be like have you ever heard of Keegley? You ever heard of Keegley?
Yeah.
They basically are a disposition.
I know Jamil very well. He's a great
they're a disposition company, right? That's what they do. They just have all the major buyer contacts. right?
Yeah.
And so people tee up their deals, they bring them to Keebly and Keebly gets them sold for them. You could be that for the land. Like
Yeah,
the
and
key
we're
to
actually
land.
experimenting with that a little bit right now. But I give the student the entire tool bag, all the systems. But yeah, it's amazing. I've done a couple deals with a few students now, and I've done a lot of partnerships too. At the end of the day, if there's so much pie, you could share it with others. And I've given a lot of profit away too. That's how I've been able to do 285 land deals in this short amount of time.
Awesome.
But I couldn't have done them without some people either.
We appreciate you joining us today. And if we have any land questions in our group, we're going to come back to you, and we'll make sure everybody here gets to know you as well. So
thank you so much, Julie. Thanks, Joe.
Yeah. Good stuff. Joe, what's the details of today's podcast?
Yeah, guys, if you'd like to get to any of the links that I've been writing down that Brent has been talking about today, head over to seattleinvestorsclub.com/150. That's seattleinvestorsclub.com/150. And I'll also put them down, if you're watching this on YouTube, in the notes section below. So you don't even have to go to our website. You can just scroll down below.
And we want to give a shout out to our sponsor of Seattle Investors Club, which is Certain Lending, which is our go-to hard money lender. They also have a 30-year loan product for for your investment properties. You want to check out, look at our YouTube page or go to Certain Lending's website at certainlending.com. But we have covered some of their strategies and webinars on our YouTube page for Seattle Investors Club. And we have Alex every week who joins us from Certain Lending on our weekly meetup that you guys are all invited to on Thursdays Pacific time from 11:30 to 12:30. We just have like a group call, for lack of a better word, collective genius, even though there's a real collective genius. Go check it out if you guys want to look at that. That's for big time investors who network together on a higher level. But we have our own little version of that right here. That you're all welcome to join. Doesn't matter where you're located. You could be in Kansas, you could be in Florida, you could be anywhere, because we talk about topics that affect us all, strategies, and things that are kind of evergreen no matter where you're at. But come and join us there. And other than that, if you enjoy our content, please, again, we'll ask you to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Seattle Investors Club and join our meetup group on meetup.com and search for Seattle Investors Club. And other than that, that's all we got for today, guys. And I'm going to go back to chasing this stupid cat. All right. Thank you. And we'll see you next time, everybody. Over and out.
Hey.
Thanks for listening to the Seattle Investors Club podcast. If you have questions that you'd like to have answered on the show, shoot us an email at info@seattleinvestorsclub.com. Now go out, take that action, and build that real estate business. Thanks for listening.